What's good, y'all? It's the White Shadow Norway, back again with yet another vinyl collector video for you. And today I'm going to count down my top 20 hip-hop albums of the golden era of the 90s. So this was a really hard task, man, to find my top 20 favorite album of the 90s of the golden era, because there's so many great albums that came out. But in the end, I managed. So here we go. At number 20, saying R.I.P. to my man Guru, Boldhead Slick in the place. Number 20 is, of course, Gang Starr, Guru, and the Premier, and the Hard to Earn album, which was their fourth album. Of course, Mass Appeal is the big single of this, but there's a ton of great tracks like A Long Way to Go and Code of the Streets, Tons of Guns. The Wick is on air, big banger. Blowing Up the Spot, Suckers Need Bodyguards, and so on and so on and so on, with the Gang Starr Foundation crew back here. Incredible album. You know, all the Gang Starr albums are great, and this is one of the best ones. At number 20 on the White Shadow Norway's top 20 countdown of my favorite hip-hop albums of the 90s. There's going to be a lot of classics here, but probably also some surprises, and this might come as a surprise to some, because at number 19 is a late 90s album, I think from a 98 or 99, by Mr. producer and MC and DJ J-Zone. His debut album, Music for Tu Madre. Now this was a great release back in the late 90s, because I mean, back then everything started, you know, most hip-hop started to get really commercial and watered down and all that stuff, and you know, everything was made for the clubs and for the hit charts. So people like the Demigods and AOTP and J-Zone, they came along and with some hardcore shit and didn't give a fuck. So, but this is a hardcore hip-hop album, but it's a fun album as well. As you can see, J-Zone's grandma there on the gangsta nip, on the G-tip, and J-Zone in the lab over here, working out the beats, straight from the mind, the body, and the soul. But anyway, nothing but bangers on this. J-Zone presents Music for Tu Madre, number 19. On my favorite hip-hop albums of the golden era of the 90s. Now, number 18, on Relativity Records, the Beatnuts and their debut album. A lot of people think this album is called Street Level, but it's not. It's just called the Beatnuts. Top to bottom bangers on this one, man. A lot of great samples, a lot of great tracks and rhymes and everything. This is just incredibly dope. Number 18. Beatnuts by the Beatnuts. Number 17, we're going to have more Gang Starr, and this is their second album called Step in the Arena. Gang Starr once again, the Premier and Guru, and a lot of classics on this, you know, like Step in the Arena, the title track, Who's Gonna Take the Weight, Check the Technique, Game Plan, Take a Rest, or Just to Get a Rep, and so on. Just a great album. The Premier had a little bit of a different style on this one compared to like the boom bap, typical boom bap Diddy Premier type beats he came with later, as this was like more in between that and, you know, the older style of break beats and laying samples on top of each other, layering samples and stuff like that. But on this album, more than the first album called No More Mr. Nice Guy, by the way, he introduced his well-known style of cutting acapellas for hooks and stuff, which most DJs did after this, man. He just created that style for hooks by, you know, using acapellas from records for scratched hooks and stuff. So, a great album. At number 29 and 17, man, you know me in counts. Gang Starr and Step in the Arena. Number 16. This was the final album by BDP, or Boogie Down Productions, called Sex and Violence. Now they had a great album that came out before this too, called Live Hardcore Worldwide, which was a live album. But on these lists, I've excluded stuff like live albums and compilations and stuff like that. So this is just like official albums by crews or single artists. So BDP, a great last album from them called Sex and Violence. Nice cover artwork here, by the way. And a lot of classics on this too, man. I used to live in New York when this came out, and I was an extended crew, BDP crew fan member, and I used to rock parties with ICU and Tree and Kenny Parker sometimes and everything. And so the track "Duck Down" was the single from here. Used to play that a lot back then, as well as the original "Way," which is interesting because the vocals on that one, KRS recorded them through a headset to get them as gritty and grimy and ugly sounding as possible. So it's just a real banger, the original "Way." And a lot of other great tracks too there. Rough featuring Freddie Fox, and the funny comedy joint 13 and Good, and We In There, Sex and Violence, and so on, man. A great album by BDP, Sex and Violence, at number 16. Top 15. Rest in peace, Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B.I.G. Probably a lot of people's favorite album, or up in the top 5. It's not that great to me, but it is great. And Ready to Die, the album. This one is a lot shorter than the CD version, but that does it well, I think. You got just enough on this one, not too many songs and not too few either. So many classics, of course, the M2May sampling Juicy, they sampled Juicy Fruit on that one. Give Me the Loot, the hardcore one produced by Easy Mo B. I worked with Easy Mo B in the studio too, and he's got so many great beats and so many great unreleased beats, so that's someone to holler at if you want bangers, if you want great beats, and if you got the money, of course. Easy Mo B, as well known as he is still underrated, man, because he's one of the best producers of all time in hip-hop. Machine Gun Funk, Warning, Unbelievable was a single as well, produced by Primo, did a premiere. The What is great, featuring Method Man, and that's Easy Mo B on the beat as well. Respect and the classic One More Chance, and Big Papa. So, packed with big classics, this one. Biggie Smalls, rest in peace. Ready to Die. That was number 15. Moving on to number 14. Only got like a promo copy or something of this. But it's one of the greatest albums of all time, man. By Main Source. Of course, Large Professor and the crew. And their debut and only album as Main Source, with Large Pro in the crew, called Breaking Atoms. Love Snake Eyes on this, man, especially that breakdown with the sample that just drops in like once is great. Just Hanging Out is probably my favorite song of this, just really laid back, looking at the front door, which was like the first single. Just A Friendly Game of Baseball is incredible. With a melting pot sample and everything. Peace Is Not the Word to Play was another single, is good as well. Live at the Barbecue, of course, like that y'all. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first time. It's not credited on this because it's just a white label thing, but that was the first time Nas was featured on a record. I could be wrong on that, but I think that introduced Nas, that song. So, overall great album on Wild Pitch Records from Main Source, called Breaking Atoms at number 14. Number, lucky or unlucky, 13. It's J. Rue the Damager of the Gangstar Foundation. He was still working with Primo, and this was the last album he worked with Primo. Some rumors back then had it that because of the song One Day on this album, where he disses Puff Daddy heavy, that had something to do with a breakup. But I'm not going to put my money on that, man. I don't know for sure. I know he got into problems with Puffy over that song, though. But fuck all that shit. Great album, Wrath of the Math, Jerry the Damage's second album. And there's not a weak song on here, man. Everything's a banger, and everything is produced by the Premier in his prime. Says exec produced by the Premier and the Guru as well there. Of course, the classic You're Playing Yourself is on this, which was the single track on this, and yeah, too many great songs. J. Rue the Damager, Wrath of the Math. Number 12. Cool G Rap, one of the best MCs of all time, of course. Cool G Rap and DJ Polo is DJ in the early days. And the second album, Wanted Dead or Alive, by far the best one to me. Wanted Dead or Alive, Cool G Rap and DJ Polo. Number 12 on my 90s hip-hop albums top 20 golden era White Shadow Norway list. You got the classic Streets of New York, Wanted Dead or Alive, the title track is dope. Money in the Bank is great, Talk Like Sex is great. Erase the Racism is great, and so on and so on and so on. Cold Chillin' Records in its prime, Cool G Rap and DJ Polo, Wanted Dead or Alive at number 12. Number 11, another Wu banger, or the first one on this list anyway. Yep, at number 11 we got Chef Raekwon, guest starring Tony Stark's Ghostface Killer, and the classic Only Built for Cuban Links, the first one, of course. Wu-Tang at its best around this time. You got classics like Criminology, Incarcerated Scarfaces, you got Rainy Days, Can It Be Also Simple, Ice Water, Glaciers of Ice, Verbal Intercourse, Ice Cream, of course, big classic Wu Gambinos and Heaven and Hell. Yep, not many weak songs on that one, man. This is great, great, great banging album. Almost made it to my top 10 in my favorite top 20 golden era hip-hop albums. At number 11, Only Built for Cuban Links. So, are you ready for top 10? Yep, without further ado, here we go. With Cypress Hill. Cypress Hill the album, Cypress Hill the crew, and their debut album on Sony Rough House Records. So many bangers, man. Pigs, I could just kill a man, of course, Hand on a Pump. Hole in the Head, the Funky Feel one. Real Estate, Stoners, The Way of the Walk. Latin Lingo, you know, so many great songs. When I moved to New York in 91, Tim Dog and Cypress Hill had a showcase on like the first night I was there. So they were the first acts I saw live in New York at SOBs back then, and nobody knew about Cypress Hill yet. They were just about getting ready to come out, so I have like a promo tape with like a red and black label of this album as well, with Cypress Hill stickers and everything. That everyone who was at that party at SOBs that time, when we left the building, they gave us that tape in the door, so everyone got a free tape of the full album. Definitely a classic, number 10 on my all-time 90s favorite hip-hop albums, Cypress Hill by Cypress Hill. Moving on to a couple of more albums that'll probably be surprises to a lot of people. At number 9, it's by I&I, and an album called Center of Attention. This is entirely produced by Pete Rock. And the whole album is great. It's just great, laid-back, jazzy, mid-90s hip-hop. This album was shelved at first. They were supposed to put it out on Atlantic, but then some didn't know, on Elektra Records, sorry. But then something happened, I don't remember what, and it did not get released. And that was a shame, because it's one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time, and Pete Rock in his prime. I think this is better than the Pete Rock and CL Smooth albums, even. But, you know, somebody picked it up and bootlegged it and stuff like that and put it out, and by now it's gotten several official releases on other labels. So I&I, produced by Pete Rock, Center of Attention. Great album. If you don't have this, just run and pick it up and get it, man. It's incredible. Another slept-on incredible album that's probably will come as a surprise to a lot of people is this one by K-Def and Larry O, Relive. And the turnaround, the long-awaited drama. This was like 97, I think 96, 97, 98-ish. Let me see if I can see. Yep, 96 on Big Beat Atlantic Records. And especially the production. I mean, the rhymes are tight on this one, but the production is incredible. And Molly Mall was involved in this one too. And this is some of the best beats you can get. Trust me on that, man. It's just a lot of great 70s dark soul samples on a lot of heavy boom bap beats. It's, oh man, I can't stress enough how great the production is on this album, man. If you don't have Relive, the turnaround, the long-awaited drama, that's another one you just gotta run and pick it up. And it's number 8 on my top 20 favorite list, The White Shadow Norway, the top 20 favorite of the 90s golden era in hip hop. Yep, that was number 8. Here's number 7. Common Sense, his second album, Resurrection, another one of those albums where every song is great. You got Resurrection, of course, I used to love her, and a lot of the great songs there. The Extra P Large Professor remix of Resurrection was even better. That was only on a 12-inch, but it's not on this album. But as an album too, man, it's just so well put together, and it's great, also great laid back jazzy hip hop out of Chicago with Chicago Chi-Town's finest. Common Sense, Resurrection, number 7 on my favorite golden era 90s hip hop albums. This is The White Shadow Norway, and we keep it moving. We're almost at the top 5 right now. Back again with the second album from my man J. Damage on this list, also entirely produced by the premier primo of Gang Starr, of course, and J. Ru's debut album, The Sun Rises in the East, which is even better than Wrath of the Math. Of course, what kicked this off was the classic Come Clean. That was the first 12-inch on this, but I would say that's probably, I mean, that's a classic track, but there's so many other great songs on this that's probably one of the weaker songs, at least beats-wise. Jungle Music, Static, The Bitches, the original, man. Sunrises in the East by Jerry Damage. It's a classic, but if you don't have this, definitely go run get it. Top 5 already, man. Here we go. Number 5, the infamous Mobb Deep. The infamous album title, of course, Mobb Deep The Crew. Just a really great, dark, heavy, hardcore hip-hop album on Loud Records. That's back in the days when, like, the major labels like BMG, RCA, on this one released real hip-hop. Yup, times have changed, ain't they? But back then, this was the shit, man. So many classics on this, man. A personal favorite of mine that wasn't single or something is Drink Away the Pain, featuring Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest. Great track, Drink Away the Pain. Of course, you got the classics too, like Shook Ones Part 2 and Survival of the Fittest. Just really, really good, really great mid-90s New York City, Queens hip-hop. The infamous Mobb Deep. At number 5 on the White Shadow Norway's top 20 hip-hop albums of the golden era of the 90s. Number 4. Yep, another album that's a lot of people's favorite. Gonna have to pull it over here to get a little more light again. Make it smoother on your eyes, you know what I mean? This might just be the hip-hop album of all time that's the best put together, like from track to track with interludes in between and everything. This is just an incredible job that the Bomb Squad and the Lynch Mob did with this album. And Ice Cube's debut album after he had broke up and left NWA, and gave NWA a run for the money with this one. His debut album, America, with Triple K's America's Most Wanted. What can I say? As a full album, this is just one of the best ones. Like I said, of course, the tracks in itself are really, really dope too. But as a, you need to sit down and just experience this as a full album, because then you'll get the most value for money and your time, and you get to spend your time the best way possible. The Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted on Priority Records, at number 4 on my 90s hip-hop album top favorites. This came out in 1990. Top 3, and I doubt that most, if any, can argue on this one being in a top 20 list. A lot of people probably think it's the greatest hip-hop album of all time, and it's close to me. Nas and the Perfect Album, Illmatic. There's 2 songs on here I'm not a big fan of, and it's actually the single Halftime and Represent. Though they have grown on me over the years. It's like I talked about the Raising Hell album by Run DMC. This is the kind of album where you find one favorite track, like say you start with New York State of Mind, then that's your favorite for a while, then you might jump to Memory Lane, and then that's your favorite for a while, and it's like that. So also really well put together album, and perfect for the way it just was in the inner city projects and in the hood back then in the mid 90s. Couldn't have come at a better time, of course. Who's who of legendary producers produced the beats here, like Large Professor, Dita Premier, Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest, and so on. And Nas Illmatic, incredible album, man. Incredible album. And it gets better and better. It's even better now in a way than when it first came out. Top 2, we're going to bring it hardcore, rough, rugged, and raw. With, that's right, the Wu-Tang Clan. This almost made it to number 1 for me, man. It was a hard choice and really hard to put this at number 2, but that's a good position too. In this top 20 White Shadow Norway best hip-hop albums of the 90s golden era, enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, the whole Wu-Tang crew in their prime on this album right here, Wu-Tang Clan, on Loud Records, of course. And I don't need to, man, most people know this, man. Bring the ruckus, setting it off really heavy and hardcore. You got the classics, Protecting Neck, Can It Be Oh So Simple, The Mystery of Chess Boxing, Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to F with. You got Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me, Cream Get the Money, Dollar Dollar Bill, y'all, yeah. And Tears, Wu-Tang 7th Chamber Part 2, and just goes on, man. The whole Wu-Tang Clan core members, I'm not talking about all these cats running around nowadays saying they're Wu-Tang affiliates, man. Must be like half the MCs out there. Maybe not that many, but you know how it is. I mean, this is the core members of Wu-Tang Clan in their prime, at their best, baby. Mid-90s hip-hop classic, and number 2 on my hip-hop top 20 90s golden era favorites. This is the White Shadow Norway. Only one album to go. So, what do you think it is? What's my number 1 hip-hop album of the 90s? It is by Gang Starr. And it is their next to last album, I think their 5th, called Moment of Truth. Best hip-hop 90s album to me. Every song is incredible. I mean, the title track in itself, A Moment of Truth, is... the whole song is a quotable, man, and the single, You Know My Steez, and man, this is the legacy that Gang Starr left, and it's such a great one. Rest in peace once again to Mr. Guru, like I said in the beginning of this video, and Dita Premier over here, handling the super dope ass beats and production on this, and Guru stepped it up a lot on the rhymes on this one compared to the earlier albums, though he was great before this too, and he was a real good guy too, by the way, man. Rest in peace, Guru, once again. And much respect, cause my favorite hip-hop album of the golden era of the 90s, and this came out in the late 90s, Moment of Truth by none other than Gang Starr. This is the White Shadow Norway. Hope you enjoyed this list and the video. I'll catch you for another one later. Sub and like if you like. See ya soon. Peace.